See, money
Mm.
doesn't expose who you are. It makes you more of who you already are. So if I'm a jerk and if I get more money, I'm a bigger jerk. But
Good point.
if I'm giving and I get more money, like entrepreneur or the most charitable person you've ever seen, it just magnifies who you already are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rise and Grind. I'm Thurl Bailey, and today we're talking about a topic that keeps more people up at night than almost anything else: money. Joining me today is Ty Lewis, a master trainer and certified financial coach who turned his own early struggles with debt into a mission to help others find financial peace. Ty believes that money shouldn't be intimidating. It should be a tool for freedom. We're going to talk about how to turn financial stress into confidence, the habits that build real wealth, and why the journey to financial freedom is a grind worth taking. Ty, I appreciate you being here, and let's get to work, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Thurl. It's my pleasure being here. I've always looked up to you, and it's just an honor to speak with you today.
Well, I appreciate you being here talking about a topic that may not seem sexy to many, but it's important to everybody, right? And a lot of times people don't want to talk about it. And it's about money, it's about their finances. You've dedicated your career to helping people master their money, but it started with your own struggle. So take us back to the early days of your marriage, and what was that breaking point with debt, and what did it feel like to finally turn that corner?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been down this road. I walked it. I struggled just like everyone does and will and continue to happen. And it was back probably about 2 years into our marriage. My wife was pregnant with our firstborn, um, which will actually be 12 in August, which is crazy. Um, and she was asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't know if you'd call it a panic attack or a midlife crisis or whatever you want to call it, but I had this overwhelming depression and darkness hit me that you can't just live your life owing people money. Like that's not the way to go through life. And so I stopped pacing and I went in and checked on the baby, and the baby's fine. And I go back in the room, but I didn't want to wake my wife up because she's getting rest that she needs. And finally I settled down, went back to sleep. And then in the morning, my wife was like, "What were you doing last night?" And I said, "We have to change some things. I feel really strongly about this." And she said, "Okay, I'm game. What do we need to do?" And I said, "I don't feel like we should owe everybody money. I feel like we should have our money work for us, not us work for money." And she's like, "All right, what's the game?" And so that started a journey of us becoming debt free. It was roughly $22,000 of consumer debt between school loans, credit cards, a truck payment. And in 20 months, by buckling down and getting a plan together, we got rid of all of that. And it's hard to explain the weight that's lifted when that happens, but you do walk taller. You do look people in the eye better, and you have more confidence when you go through life if you're not having to owe
Yeah.
people that money.
So, so what was there a first small win that made you believe you could actually get out of debt?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. There was. The very first small win was we had a couple credit cards. One of them was tiny and it was like $300 maybe. and I'd gotten some extra money doing some side work uh, that I wasn't expecting to get. And it was about $500. And we could have used $500 in that point in our marriage and our family life to buy, new things for the baby and everything like that. But we buckled down and we said, let's take that 500 and pay off that $300 credit card, and then take the other 200 and apply it to the next one. And yeah, like you said, it's not sexy, and it's nothing that I would, I wouldn't write a big newspaper report or post about anywhere, because
But
it's
it was
not
big.
anything,
It was
but
big.
gets that dopamine hit that this is
Mm.
possible and I can do this.
Yeah.
And then it almost turns into a game. What can I get rid of on Facebook Marketplace? What side game can I do? Can my wife grab another baby and bring him into our home and babysit for a little money? What
Mm.
coupons? What 2-for-1? Right? And it almost turns into a game.
What is it about finance that makes so many people feel intimidated? I mean, why do you think we're so afraid to look at our own bank accounts?
Yeah, I think it's I tell people all the time when I'm coaching them, Thurl, finance is really fifth grade math. If you can do math in the fifth grade, you can handle all your finances. The problem is finances is only about 20% math and 80% behavior and
Mm.
emotions.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is you grew up a certain way, Thurl. I don't know all the ins and outs of you growing up.
Poor.
Yeah, there you go. So poor. So in your mind, you had a mindset, and I don't know if it's still there in the back of your mind. You have a mindset of what money is. And it was probably, it's never here. Don't ask for it because we don't have it, and don't expect much. That mindset is ingrained and imprinted on you as a child. So when you started to make money, you probably had some imposter syndrome going on where you thought, well, this isn't me. Like I grew up where you don't have money and we don't spend money because that's the way it was. And that's how everyone is, Thurl. They either have, it was used as a punishment in their home. It was used as a reward system in their home. It was not talked about because it wasn't there. I grew up in a generation that my parents didn't talk about because their parents didn't talk about it. I didn't know how much we had coming in. I didn't know what things cost. I just knew that I had food on the table and a roof over my head, and I didn't ask where that all came from. So I think people, all of a sudden, these emotions get tied into money, and really it's just dollars and cents plus and minus, but we've turned it into this big competition.
Yeah.
I think social media has blown it out of proportion of how I need to look a certain way. I need to drive a certain thing. I need to have a certain house. And so we've taken this simple fifth or fourth grade math and we've turned it into this big production of what it should be. And it's really, when it gets down to it, and when I coach people all the time, they'll have that aha moment, like what really is not complex. It's hard because you have to
Yeah.
make some sacrifices, but it's not complex by any means.
So you hit on something pretty interesting, and I'm going to deviate just a little bit because I grew up poor, right? My family didn't have a lot of money, but it was motivation for me at a certain age to want to be able to be successful, to be able to relieve my family of, to get my mom a house and to be able to have things that we've never had before. So, and I know we're not talking about the 90%,
Sure.
right? We might be talking about the 10% or even less than that. But I signed my first NBA contract. I was the seventh pick of the draft, and I signed a $1 million contract over 4 years. So that was 250,000 a year, which back in '83 was a lot of
Sure.
money. That was good. That was a good contract. I mean,
Yep.
today's seventh pick of the draft is, I don't know, upwards towards 20, 30, 40 million maybe.
Right.
Um, But as you've seen these athlete stories about wealth, and then they're broke. Look, it was a lot of money for me, but in essence wasn't a lot of money. I was in the 50% tax bracket, and I was garnishing all these new relatives and friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And and so how important, even on both sides of the scale, how important is the education part about knowing your finances? I know you said it's easy math, but there's an education part in there and an emotional part in there about needs and wants that has to be part of your teaching and your conversation.
Absolutely. And you bring up a good point about athletes. That is probably the greatest example I can think of, especially in the time where we have the NIL and things like that, where we're handing 18, 19, 20-year-olds these contracts, and they've either grown up and never have seen money like this, or they've never even done a budget before, Thurl, right? This is the first time they've been out on their own. And when I say out on their own, they still have a university that's providing housing and food and everything. So they just get this money, these deals, and they have no idea where to even start. And I think that's what you're speaking about when you're talking about education. There's so many good things to do with finances and with money. And I see a lot of people, they're trying to do them. The only thing is, when I coach people, I tell them it's like steps. You want to do all these steps. Well, whenever I'm on a staircase and I do all the steps at once, that's called falling. We don't want to fall when we're working on this. We want to do one step at a time, because as you know, whether you're going up or down, that next step leads to the next step, which leads to the next step. And finally, you get to your goal, whether that's downstairs or upstairs, either way you want to put it. But we don't want to hit all of them at once, because again, that's fine. And doing a lot of good things, but not concentrating on one thing, will get you discouraged, make you lose hope. It'll make you get frustrated and give up and things like that. So what I try to do is take a process and just do one step at a time. And once we get that step that builds that confidence, then we move to the next step.
Gotcha.
And then move to the next step. And so I think that education to do that is super important, especially with these. And I think it should be taught in the schools, in high schools, which it is more. It's definitely happening. I just think it needs to be a bigger emphasis on personal finance than even something like geometry.
Yeah.
I don't think I've reused geometry since I've left school.
Yeah, they told me I would never use it, and they were right. But let me ask you about this. You talk about turning stress into confidence. Now, what's the biggest stress killer that you teach your clients in like the first 30 days of you working with them?
So what I try to instill in them is I try to give them the mentality of be your own bank. And what I mean by that is not relying on credit cards or borrowing money or whatever to fulfill the needs that you have. So we take John. John is a fictional character. I don't know this person.
But John's out there.
Yep, definitely out there, right? And John has a mortgage and a car payment and student loans, maybe some medical debt and some credit card bills, and maybe still have to pay for food and kids' soccer and so on and so forth. And what happens is we don't focus on the important stuff to get it under control, that we start losing our way where, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that dance classes was due on the 28th. I'm just going to go ahead and put that on a credit card, but I'll pay it off next month.
Right.
And I hear this all the time. Next month comes, but it's back to school in August, right? Oh, I forgot about that. I got to put that on the credit card. But I can't pay off the other one because I got to put this on the credit card first, because back to school, like school starts in 3 weeks, and so on and so forth. And it just avalanches into this bigger problem. And so people like Coach, they do use credit cards. I'm not saying credit cards are bad. I'm I don't use one, but I'm not saying that they're bad if you can manage it. But that small percentage of people that can manage it are the exception, not the rule. There's
Yeah.
a reason Visa, MasterCard, and Discover have the tallest buildings that you see in a city skyline. It's
So,
not because they don't make money. It's because people pay
well,
interest.
we live in that world. We live in that world of buy now, pay later. So how do you help people stay disciplined when the world is constantly telling them to spend now and pay later?
Yeah, isn't it interesting? I met someone from New Zealand once, and when they came to America, they were like, "What is this credit score thing?" They, tried to dumbly put it like it's a score that grades you on how you handle debt. And he's like, "Why do you have debt?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good point, right? Well, why are you in mess with that?"
Yeah.
And we're the only ones that have a credit score. Credit scores don't exist outside the United States because people usually try to buy things that they can afford with the money that they have, not put it on a future payment plan. And like
Yeah.
you said, I just read an article yesterday that 40% of people are now using buy now, pay later for
Yeah.
groceries. Thurl, that's a huge problem. So you're
Yeah.
saying to pay for food, you're going to make payments on that gallon of milk instead of just paying for it outright.
That's crazy.
We have messed up our priorities so much that it's starting to get a little frightening, in all honesty.
So there's a lot of financial noise, as we've just talked about out there. What's one common piece of financial advice that you hear all the time that you actually disagree with?
I I disagree with the um, that you can pay off debt and invest at the same time. Because again, those are two steps that we should be doing, but we don't take steps at the same time because we fall.
Right.
I think you should laser focus on one and then go to the other one. So I'll teach people to pay off all their consumer debt. If they have a mortgage, we can put that later because that's a bigger number. But to all those student loans and car payments and medical bills and credit cards, and let's get all those out of the way, because when you stop sending your money that you earn to someone else, compiles so much faster, because your biggest wealth building tool, Thurl, is your income. I mean,
Right.
you'll get on TikTok and Instagram and they'll talk about making an investment over here, arbitrage, this Airbnb. And this tax break. Yeah, that's great. But your biggest wealth building tool is the paycheck you bring home every 2 weeks, every month, or however it is that you're paid. And if you're extending that paycheck to Visa and the hospital and to Toyota and to whoever else instead of it working for you, that's what I think. So that's the biggest thing. I think you should laser focus on one thing at a time, knock that out, and let's move to the next step.
So you talk about steps, and you may have kind of answered this question, but for the person listening who feels like they're drowning in debt and they
Sure.
can't seem to see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Mhm.
what's the most important first step they should take?
The most important one is take care of what I like to call your four walls, Thurl. Everyone should and or needs a roof over their head. That's number
Right.
one. So you need shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, everyone needs food to eat.
Yep.
So that should be number two. Because if you're hungry, you don't make good decisions. And so you should have food. That doesn't mean you should order out DoorDash every night. That's not what I mean by that. I mean having a grocery list and going to the grocery store and finding the ingredients and making good, nutritious food.
And finding the deals,
Finding the deals, finding the
bonds.
on the buy one, get one, the coupons. There's no shame in that. I don't take my wife on a date unless we have a coupon usually. I mean, that's just how we do it.
Good man.
And it's almost
Yeah.
a game now. And she's looking for deals. Hey, I got this one. They're doing buy 2 drinks and get an entree free or whatever. And it's great. Yeah, let's go do it. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
Can we afford to do that? Absolutely, we can afford not to have coupons, but it's like I said, it's almost a game now. I think the third pillar is you need to have lights and heating and air conditioning. Your utilities should be paid for
Mhm.
because it's great to have a roof over your head, but if you're miserable because it's
Right.
so cold or it's so hot or you can't see, that's the other thing. And the fourth is a mode of transportation so you can get to and from work. If people would start with those four and make those the priority, and I tell people all the time when I'm coaching, well, what about Visa's card? And I don't care about Visa. They're not going to starve to death. They'll be fine. We'll get
Right.
to them eventually, but start with your four walls and get those in order first and make them solid and get that as a habit of paying those four first.
I love that, Ty. Love that, man. Great, great advice. You're a master trainer. What's the biggest difference between someone who wants to be wealthy and someone who actually achieves financial freedom?
Yeah. So, wealth is defined in many different ways. If I were to go to Ethiopia and I were to take my 12-year-old, they would look at him as wealthy. And he doesn't, I think he maybe has $58 in his bank account. Mm. But they would say he's well fed, well dressed, doesn't look like he has any medical needs going on, and he actually has money in the bank. So to them, he's wealthy. Now, if you were to place him here in the United States with how everyone looks and perceives as well, they would say, well, he's not wealthy because he doesn't have a big car or a big house.
Mm.
So when I talk to people, I don't have $1 billion in my bank account. But guess what I don't do? I don't stress when the price of oil goes up. I don't stress when eggs skyrocket. Is it annoying? Absolutely. Do I have to move things around to adjust our grocery budget or our gas budget? Sure. But I'm not up at night because of it. Why? Because my wife and I have chosen not to owe other people money. Yeah, it's super annoying when I go to buy eggs because let's be honest, I have to buy 5 dozen at a time in my house full of boys. It used to be $4. It spiked all the way up to 28 during the egg thing. It's now back down to 7 or 9,
Yeah.
but I just adjusted. Now, am I wealthy? By no means. According to the world, I'm not wealthy. But am I financially free and able to make those decisions? Absolutely, I am.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk to Ty Lewis about maybe a little bit of the lighter side of what he does and how he spends his time, maybe unplugging a little bit. But we're also going to talk about what we touched on maybe earlier in this are the youth out there and their need to learn these lessons early. We'll be right back with Ty Lewis on Rise and Grind. Hey guys, time out. You know, you give your best to your work, your family, and your responsibilities. But to keep showing up strong, you've got to stay dialed in. At Game Day Men's Health, the nation's leading men's clinic, they help you get back in the game with a custom game plan built around your labs, your goals, and your performance. Testosterone, peptides, real optimization. Come in today for a free testosterone test and consult. Tell them Big T sent you, and you get 50% off your first year membership. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Victory starts within. Welcome back, everybody, to Rise and Grind. We are here talking to Ty Lewis, who is a master trainer and certified financial coach. We've been talking about the importance of getting out of debt and also being educated on what you need to do to have some financial freedom. Ty, I want to maybe lighten it up a little bit. If you can lighten up debt
Yep,
and financial freedom. I know you love camping in the redwoods, correct? Is,
absolutely.
is that your way of kind of disconnecting from the numbers of the world? Um, Talk to us about that. What's the biggest lesson maybe that nature teaches you that you can't learn from a spreadsheet?
Sure. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. We go to the redwoods every year. I mean, obviously, there's some years you can't make it because of COVID or other circumstances, but you go to these these giant trees, right? 300 feet tall. So when you can drive your car through, you can't see the top if you stand at the bottom. And like you said, I can disconnect. There's no cell phone service. There's no internet. Anything like that up there. I just get to be with my family, and other extended family. It's interesting though, when you look at creations like a redwood tree, they have never worried about where the next paycheck's coming or what their investments look like or anything. All they're worried about is how tall they can get. And they do a really good job at it. And what's interesting, and I love the redwoods analogy, I'm going to go a little bit further with it. Most people don't know that redwood trees, their roots only go 6 feet into the ground. Now you say, man, how do they even hold up if they're 200 feet tall? It's because their roots interconnect with the other roots of the other redwood trees. So there's a community in these forests that if one gets hit by lightning and it's damaged, they actually, the other roots from the other trees send more nutrients to that one so it can help repair itself.
Wow, dude, I didn't know that.
They also, before the national parks and everything existed, they were cutting down redwoods. And what they noticed is when a redwood got damaged like that, it actually dropped 5 or 6 clones of itself into the ground. And if you go out there and look at the ones that had been cut down back in the 1800s, they have 5 or 6 other trees identical to it growing right around it. So really, when you chopped it down, it made 5 or 6 more versions of itself, maybe even better versions, to grow and to keep the forest going. So they're very unique, but I always use them when I talk to people. I'm like, you shouldn't have to do this alone. This isn't a journey that we should all slog through by ourselves. We should have these relationships with family and with friends and with mentors and coaches and boost us up and make us feel good. And when we are down, they give us those extra quote unquote nutrients to build us back up.
Love that analogy, man. It sounds like you don't really unplug. You're continually learning, and even on vacation. And speaking of vacation, if you had to give a financial grade to a typical family vacation, what's the biggest mistake people make that ruins their budget and their fun?
I think it's not talking about it beforehand, Thurl. My wife and I, we did the Disney thing 2 years ago. My boys had never been, and it's because Disney is quite expensive. So we saved up, we bought the tickets, we got the hotel rooms, we ended up driving because we decided we were going to visit some family on the way. So we saved up the money for the gas and everything. And then we talked about what happens when we're in the park and the boys start asking for the extras. And those extras, Thurl, are expensive. As we all know, I think a churro now goes for $9 in the Disneyland parks, and it's gone in 60 seconds when you hand it to someone. And so we made a plan. And I think that's what it comes down to. As long as you have a plan. And our plan, different probably from others, is we gave each of our sons a Disney gift card. And we said, you can use this for anything you want. If you want a Mickey Mouse stuffed animal, go for it. But if you want a churro or a Dole Whip, go for it. Now, I'm not saying I didn't feed my children when I was there. Of course, we had snacks and breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but it was the extras. And it actually taught them that once this certain money amount was gone, then that was it. So if you spent it all on the first day, the next 2 days of the park were probably not going to be as exciting because you already had your thing. But that was up to them. And that taught them these principles of delaying gratification and to looking for a deal and getting the most bang for your buck, right? In a small way, but it still taught them.
Yes. I love that. So without naming names, of course, what's the most outrageous or maybe funny financial mistake you've ever seen a client make?
I had one client, they They make $250,000 a year. And we started going, and he said, he is he actually is an accountant for his job. And he's like, I have no idea. We have to use credit cards every month. I don't know what's happening. And I said, well, let's sit down and go through it one by one. So we did, and we went through it. And come to find out, he was spending several $100s a month eating out, if not thousands. And Amazon Prime was being spent close to $2,000 to $3,000 a month that they had no idea, because it's so easy to click add to cart and ship that they weren't keeping track of it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people think earning more will fix the problem, but you go with you, Thurl. So if I earn $10 an hour right now, I think, well, all my problems will be solved if I earn $20 an hour. No, because you go with you. So the habits that you have at $10 that are making you not wealthy are going to go with you when you're making $20 an hour to $100 an hour to $1,000 an hour. See, money doesn't expose who you are. It makes you more of who you already are. So if I'm a jerk, and if I get more money, I'm a bigger jerk. But if I'm giving and I get more money, like the entrepreneur or, the most charitable person you've ever seen, it just magnifies who you already are.
I love that. Good point. So if you could go back to the version of yourself right before you got married and give yourself a piece of financial advice, what would that be?
I would say you pay myself first. Be more giving with my contributions. Because it's interesting, I tell people, my clients all the time, I say, what happens when you close your fist around your money? You don't want anyone to take it. I said, that's great. But how can you get anything if your fist is closed? Now, if your hand is open and you're giving, you can get a lot more in return. Is it financial all the time? Not necessarily. But that's the advice I would give, is to not be so selfish with the money that I didn't earn, is to be able to have that open hand, because when a hand is open, stuff can go out and stuff can come back in.
Gotcha. Great advice. So on this show, we talk a lot about the grind. In your world, what does that grind look like when you're trying to pay off debt and build wealth? Is it about working harder, or is it about something else?
I think it depends on how extreme you want to take it, Thurl. I'll give you another example. When we were doing this debt payoff, Christmas was coming up, and we didn't have a lot of extra money at this time because of where our goals were. And so the sacrifice was, this year, we get $20 to spend on each other. So my wife got $20 to spend on me, and I got $20 to spend on her. And the baby got cousin hand-me-downs wrapped up and put under the tree. And guess what? He was super happy because he was only 4 or 5 months old. He had no idea. And does he remember it today? Absolutely not. But my wife and I will sit on the couch to this day, Thurl, and laugh and have joy and remember that $20 Christmas more than any other Christmas we've had since then. Was it a sacrifice? Absolutely. Did I feel like I was failing as a husband and a father? For sure I did when I had that Christmas. But when we look back, we wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So yeah, will you not go to Disneyland in this journey as you're trying to pay off debt? Probably not, or you shouldn't. But that walk in the park on a Sunday afternoon with your family will be remembered more than that trip to Disneyland. And that's the grind. That's the mental part we have to get over, is ourselves thinking we have to do all these things that are wonderful and magical and cost a lot of money, when let's stop paying everyone else. Let's invest in us as a husband, as a wife, as a family, as an individual, and everything else will just fall into place.
That's super, super great advice. I want to touch on one more thing before I let you go. You mentioned earlier about these kids being taught somewhat about finances in school, but not sure it's enough. I know that times are changing. I'm not even sure kids even have seen a check now,
Sure.
right? Or even know how to fill one out, or even if it's necessary.
Right.
What kind of advice would you give these, not just parents, but the kids themselves? You've got 11th, 12th graders who are just about done
Mhm.
with high school and they're going to college. They're going to be getting student loans, and which in itself is going to be causing them a lot of debt.
Yep.
What advice would you give these young people?
I think, and you're spot on. The first thing that comes in the mail, Thurl, when these kids graduate, are offers for credit cards. It's crazy. As soon as they turn 18, Visa and Master know. And here, you can have $2,000 right now to spend. And don't worry about interest. We won't charge you for 12 months, right? And it looks really good. Not only that, Thurl, the other part that's hard, and I'll touch on this just to bring awareness to it. Gambling is now taking over pornography as the number one addiction on the internet.
I believe it.
I mean, just silly things, right? Things like
Right.
that. And it's my advice would be stay true to who you are. If you need to go get an education, get it in something that will make you a better person, will help the world, and that also will pay you. I see a lot of kids go in, I had $100,000 worth of debt. Well, what did you get it in? Well, I got it in psychology. Well, what do you do now? Well, I work at Walmart. Well, what was that for? Like what you did all of that? You have this huge amount of debt and you're not even using it. So find something you
Right.
love that's going to give you and give back to the world, but also that you can make a living off to support yourself and not just yourself. When I tell my coach people, I say, I wish people would understand that I don't want people to get wealthy so they can be wealthy. I want them to get wealthy so then they can pass it on. Because if we had one person that passed it on to four people and then that just dominoed, this world wouldn't talk about poor or hungry or homelessness or anything like that.
Well, Ty, you've given us some amazing advice here. Where do people find you? I mean, how does someone, they want to connect and get more information or be able to use your services? Where do they find you?
Yeah, well, definitely. So I have a website. It's just called coachtylewis.com. You can find me there. You can schedule an appointment to my calendar there if you just want to talk. My phone number's on there. If you ever just want to, you can shoot me a text if you have a question. I would love to help you answer, to help you get by. And like we talked about, Thor, we just scratched the surface. There's definitely a lot more, but I want to shout it from the rooftops. I want everyone to be not stressed about finances. I want them to be stressed about the dirty diaper they have to change or which type of meat they're going to buy at the grocery store, not how much it costs. So,
Well, I appreciate it. You showing us so much, and you shared your story, and you made the world of finance feel a little less intimidating. So I appreciate you doing that for our listeners. To our listeners, this is a reminder to not let the complexity of money keep you from your goals. Take the first step. Stay consistent. Keep rising. Keep grinding. If you found value in today's conversation, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a little financial confidence today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Ty, thank you so much for
thank
being on
you.
today with us. And join us for the next episode of Rise and Grind. I'm Thurl Bailey, and take care of yourselves.